Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed, but we are joined by returning guest and friend of the podcast, Damien of Riggos Ragg and Dames Drop Back, the big podcast that you have. How you doing tonight, Damien?
How y'all doing, brother? Thank y'all for having me. Glad to be back, especially after an amazing draft that, we were all tweeting and talking about. Excited to definitely talk with y'all, and I appreciate y'all for having me.
Yeah, and so you picked up right where I was leaving off, my friend, because last time that we had you on here, there were two names that you talked about the most. That was Dyami Brown, and it was Sam Cosme. Everyone knows if they watch you on Twitter, if they've heard you on this pod, those were the two guys you really, really liked. What drew you to them, and what do you see them playing out here in Washington?
So I'll start with Cosme. The thing with me was the frame, the athletic profile that we saw was I was amazed by it. I was mentioning how this dude is 6'7", 314, can flat out move. I'm not going to call out the ESPN reporter that said it wasn't a great athlete. I think that's false. But
it was clearly false. He tested in the top 9%.
Yeah, it was
99%.
And this isn't something I'm making up either. Y'all can go ahead and check that. Whoever the listeners.
I think it was Al Kiper.
His RAS score was the highest in 35 years that they reported.
It literally was like, oh yeah, it wasn't a great athlete. No, I don't know. But athletically, it was just he gives you so much to work with. He's a guy that can get to the second level and make those tough blocks cutting across defenders' faces. And that's what really drew me to him. I was like, hey, if he can do this in the run game, if he can, kind of learn his pad level, get a little bit lower, because being that big, you're gonna play high. Right. If he can learn some things technically, man, you're working with something that you can't find every day. And that's why with Cosme, I was like, man, if Washington can get their hands on him, and especially with the guys, JP and them saying that, they've seen Washington's offensive line coach, in action, in person, right there, seeing how tough he is as a coach and how good he is. Man, the sky's the limit for a guy like Cosme in Washington. I loved that about him. And transitioning to Dyami Brown, the thing that I really enjoyed most, and this is something that I don't want to be like cliche and like a super expert here, but man, this dude loves to block. And I don't know if you remember when Terry McLaurin was drafted. That was like the big thing with McLaurin was like, dude is a blocker. Dude will get, do the dirty work. He will play special teams.
Right. And
with Dyami, I was like, wow, like this guy's a very good blocker. He's a willing blocker and he's dedicated to it. And that's not even, and that's, whether he's getting the ball 10 times a game or none. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And not only that, you couple the fact that he was a great deep threat. He doesn't have that insane, like quick twitch, short area quickness, but he has good long speed. Yep. And that's kind of something Washington doesn't really have. I mean, a guy like Curtis Samuel and Terry, like they're extremely quick, fast, short area. They can take a 5-yard pass to 50. But a guy like Dyami Brown can kind of go from he can make a 20, 30, 40-yard reception at any point in the game. And that's what really drew me to him. I like the athletic profile coupled with the traits they had, and I felt like, hey, if they land in Washington, they're cooking with gas.
Yeah, and it's almost like Dyami Brown is like Will Fuller when he came out. Was a straight line speed, deep field, deep threat, and he had to learn the intermediate game, and obviously Dyami only played on the left side of the field, and he's talked about that's something he needs to work on. So hopefully he does.
Oh yeah, 100. And then not only that too, guys. I mean, we're talking about how he needs to learn an intermediate portion of the field, short passing game. They just got two guys in McLaurin and Samuel who will cook in that area. Yeah. So yes, he will develop that. Yeah. But man, you have a guy that complements him perfectly, and vice versa. He complements their games perfectly as well. Yep.
Real fast, you were talking about Dyami Brown, his physicality. That's something Logan Paulson talked about. He talked about how he has the mentality almost of a Terry McLaurin where he likes to get down and dirty, but he's kind of in a what's his face's body. Who was it that we said?
You said Paul. You said Terry
McLaurin.
Richardson. Yeah,
he's
Paul
a little
Richardson.
thin. Yeah. He's a little thin, but you just love that dog about him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was huge on Dyami coming out, and I just kept saying, like, I was just like, man, Dyami Brown to Washington, like, it just seems like the perfect fit. Like, this guy literally, like, is a Ron Rivera guy. And so, I'm not going to lie, I was a little surprised that I wasn't necessarily surprised that they took him, but I was surprised he was there at 82. Yeah. And so when I saw that, I just had to put on Twitter, like, I can't believe they just ran off on the plug with Dyami Brown at 82. They just ran off with him and didn't look back.
Chris Collinsworth said he was probably the best pick, sleeper pick.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, and speaking of Ron Rivera, guys, obviously number 19 pick overall, they selected Jamin Davis, a guy that I shot up the draft boards throughout the draft process. I know all three of us are high on him. How did you feel about that draft pick?
Oh, I loved it. I loved Jamin Davis. And that was someone who originally in my little pre-draft process, I thought this was going to be a third-round pick. I wasn't looking at him as a first or second-round talent. But the more I watched and the more I kind of broke down and I looked at the numbers, I knew, I was like, man, this guy really is a first-round talent. And I was talking with Ari Temkin on it, and we had a mutual agreement on this. Linebacker is a position of, I feel, you either have it or you don't, and you're going to learn that quickly. And with a guy like Jamin Davis, you see the instincts there. You see the excellent work in coverage. Yeah, he needs to learn to get skinny and in the run game and stuff like that. But, man, he's just so athletically gifted. You can see his instincts in coverage and see him work. And I feel like a guy like that, man, how could you not love that in the first round? I mean, hypothetically, like, I know a lot of Washington fans are saying, hey, we wanted Zaven Collins, this, that, and the third. Well, other teams are looking at him like a 3-4 backer. You know what I mean? That's how that's what teams are looking at him at. So I think fit-wise, it was great. As my draft process, continued, I was like, hey, this guy's a first-round prospect. And that's why I said, I was like, Jamin Davis at 19 all day. I'm all in on that. And so that's why when I saw it and it happened, I was like, you know what? That's Riverboat Ron, because that's not a pick many teams would have made. I don't think many teams would take a guy who was a riser like that and just say at night, other than the Raiders would. The Raiders would do it. Outside of the Raiders, I think Washington. I think Ron Rivera. I was like, you know what? That's Riverboat Ron. I can get down with that. So I was happy with the pick, guys. I mean, it's hard. Like we talked about. It would be really hard for them to mess up this, the first round. Like they'd have to do something off the wall,
Right. It was. It was reported that the Giants were looking at taking Jamin Davis at 20. Him or Kadarius Toney. We took him off the board. So the other teams were high on him. I mean, Rivera and them know what they're looking for in a linebacker. But one of the things that Washington has really done well over the past couple of years, especially last year, is draft well in the mid to late rounds. Of course, last year Cam Curl. Do you see any rookie possibly who was a late round pick possibly coming on and having a big impact? Obviously not the impact Cam Curl had, but something similar to that?
Honestly, guys, I know I wasn't high on the pick when it first came in, but man, maybe we got some with John Bates. I mean, honestly, maybe you have a guy who can contribute immediately as a blocker, but maybe his development as a receiver, maybe there's some untapped potential there. There's some stuff that the tape didn't show. That, hey, maybe this guy really can make an impact in year one. I mean, as a blocker, I think he will for sure. But then again, if you're putting him, because I mean, I know he didn't catch many passes. I know he did. He caught a couple of tight end screens and stuff like that.
He was really underutilized.
Yeah, but maybe he was. That could very well be a thing. So I think a guy like him. I mean, obviously the cheese man. We'll see him play a lot because he's going to be the long snapper. But maybe a guy like him can definitely make an impact in year one, especially much more than I thought. Because when I first saw the pick, I was a little, freaked out by it. I was like, that's weird.
Yeah, I think a lot of Washington fans were because it wasn't Brevin Jordan or somebody that had been mocked to him. But when you watch the tape, he's very good.
Yeah, it makes sense why they picked him.
Yeah, and yesterday it was supposed to get released at 8 o'clock, but it got leaked out throughout the entire day, and that was the Washington football team's 2021 schedule. I read an article before we started from CBS Sports and John Breach. He said Washington had the 15th hardest schedule in the league this year, but if it wasn't for that 17th game, that Bills being added, they would have fell to the 22nd overall in difficulty and strength of schedule. So that Bills game is really big. So let me ask you, Damian, your top 5 matchups of the season for you.
So I'm going to do two of them will be Giants and Cowboys for sure, just because in division. Kansas City, Green Bay, and Tampa Bay. Just because those 3 teams are contending high-level teams that you definitely have to look for, especially when you're kind of gauging where this team is at. Now, I'm not saying, if they win all 3, they're going to win the Super Bowl. And I'm not saying necessarily if they lose all 3, they're a horrible team. But seeing how they play, these teams is going to be pretty crucial to kind of see and gauge, where they're at. Obviously, Giants and Cowboys is going to be big because they're in your division. The Giants, I feel like they improved a lot. The Cowboys getting Dak Prescott, obviously that's a huge improvement. But yeah, definitely, Chiefs, Packers, Buccaneers, Cowboys, and Giants are, my top 5.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like you said, like we were talking before we started recording, iron sharpen iron. So I mean, these high-powered offenses against our defense is only going to make us better. And potentially make our offense better as well. And sticking with the schedule in the division, man, we were talking about, like I said earlier, there's really no like kind of soft spots in the schedule. It's like balls to the wall, full on all 18 weeks. But those last 5 weeks in the division, how do you feel about those last 5 weeks of the schedule?
So the last 5, especially considering how, we have a stretch here from the 17th and the 24th and the 34th. Okay, so October 17th, 24th, and 31st, we have Chiefs, Packers, and Broncos, right? Then you have the bye. Then you play the Buccaneers. That's tough. That's a tough. And then you follow that up. You have a not as tough game against Carolina, but then Seattle is right there. So I think these last 5 games are going to be crucial because depending on where Washington's at, they're going to have to make up some serious ground potentially. I'm optimistic that, hey, maybe they can, win a couple of those tough games that we may not see them winning right now. But I think those games are, that's honestly, it's either going to be December 26th against the Cowboys, which is going to be the biggest game, or January 9th if this team's in division contention. It's going to be one of those two that are going to be the most important.
Yeah, that last month of the season is going to be so important, but also so stressful for us. It's going to be a little ridiculous. But one thing that you notice when you really go over the schedule is we face a lot of very good offensive teams. Of course, you talk about the Chiefs, the Bills, the Seahawks, the Saints, depending on how James does. Green Bay, depending on if Aaron Rodgers is there. Cowboys should have a better offense, so should the Giants. Do you think that this defense, with the way that they're built, do you think that they can still finish as a top 5 unit?
Oh, Washington for sure. Oh yeah, especially with. I don't mean to. I respectfully say this. The linebacker core last year was really bad, right?
Exactly right.
You grabbed a guy like Jamin Davis.
They were bad.
Yeah.
You grabbed a guy like Jamin Davis, so I feel it immediately improves that room. He's not gonna. I'm not saying he's Brian Urlacher or anything like that, but I'm saying he's gonna be very, very impactful. Not only that, adding William Jackson is an upgrade over Ronald Darby. Just kind of playing football math. That's an upgrade there. They like Derek Forrest a lot. You're getting a guy like Landon Collins back.
And Matt Ioannidis.
Yeah, we all have our questions, right? But if they're going to run that 3 safety look, I believe that's a pretty solid role for a guy like Landon Collins. You can get the most out of him as well. So there's just so much talent there. I think this defense is too talented to be a bottom half defense or even just in the top half. I think they're going to be a top 10 unit. It'd be really hard for me to imagine that unless the offense is so bad it's worse than last year and they're playing 120 plays a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But obviously, the offense has to help out the defense a little bit there. But yeah, no, I
should.
Yeah, this defense is definitely capable of being a top 5 unit.
Absolutely. Damian, last year, Morgan Moses had a big leap year based on his previous years with the team. He had a look like a Pro Bowl year. Who this season do you think is going to have the biggest leap in development?
Ooh, that's a good one. So I'm thinking, honestly, I think I've said it before whenever we had it. I didn't want it. I thought it was cliche or kind of like a cop-out, but man, I think if Chase Young learns more of being an actual pass rusher, because I don't think he has many counter moves. I don't think his pass rush is very dynamic right now. Man, if he learns that, if he's getting 7.5 sacks off effort and athleticism alone right now and just pure strength, imagine when this guy learns how to use the hands.
How scary is that?
Exactly. So I think a guy like
that's just how big his potential is.
Exactly. I think a guy like Chase Young could definitely be that leap of improvement there. And hey, maybe even a guy like Logan Thomas. This is a second year in the offense, and he's at tight end. He could take a leap as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. So obviously the news just broke yesterday, or was it yesterday? 2 days ago, whatever it was. They just made another addition at left tackle. Charles Leno from the Chicago Bears was there for 7 or 8 years, something like that. 93 straight starts. How do you feel about the signing? And do you think he's going to be the starter, or do you think it's going to be a competition between him and his former teammate Cornelius Lucas?
I think it'll be a competition. I'm kind of meh on the signing. I thought that Cosme definitely needs a year to kind of sit, or some games to sit for sure, like we mentioned. But I mean, Leno's how Lucas played last year. I think Lucas was better down the stretch. I think Leno is kind of what he is right now. He's definitely going to give up some sacks. He's going to give up a decent amount of hurries. I mean, I have the numbers right here in front of me. 30 hurries in 2020, 27 in 2019, 15 sacks over the last 3 years. He kind of is what he is right now. But that's not to say that's a bad thing. They need a consistent option, someone who's, you can, as close to you can guarantee them playing in a game. So I understand that. He could provide a leadership option as well. But yeah, like I said, I'm more meh on it. I didn't think that was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they got Charles Leno. It was just like it was a good depth signing. I understood it. And I'm with it. I trust in what they're doing. And hey, I'm all for kind of having Cosme sit for a year before kind of throwing him into the fire, so to speak. But I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Cosme needs about a year or so. So one of our weakest positions, really for the last couple of years, has been wide receiver. This offseason we went out, we really did a lot. That's now one of probably the most solid all-around units that we have. There's going to be a lot of familiar names get cut. How many wide receivers Washington keeps?
How many wide receivers do you think Washington keeps?
Okay, now this is going to be a good one. Okay, so I think the 4 that are safe obviously is McLaurin, Samuel, Humphreys, and De'Ami Brown, right? That
Right.
last one, they could keep 5, they could keep 6, probably 6. But I'm really thinking it's going to be Cam Sims. I would lean him at the 5th spot, and if they're going to keep another one, I think it would be Kelvin Harmon over AGG. I think AGG is going to
Yeah.
cut.
I think he's going to get cut.
Yeah.
And you also got to remember Milne and Isaiah Wright. Yeah. They really like Isaiah Wright.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot about
Steven
Dax.
Sims. Even though let's hope he's gone.
But I forgot about Dax. Yeah, no, he could. But they got. I think about it like this: AGG, respectfully, looked really bad in the times that we saw him. Right. Yeah. I think this regime isn't going to second guess or wait it out on many players. I think that they'll give you an opportunity. And they want you. Obviously, they're going to put you in all the positions they can to succeed. But if there's something that's not meeting, if you're not meeting your expectations, they're definitely going to meet theirs. And I think they'll be quick to kind of cut ties.
Yeah.
Should something not work out.
The only reason I was surprised at it because like they have the practice squad, so obviously AGG would be able to go to the practice squad. You wouldn't have to cut him. For that spot, just to be able to develop, like you said. Yeah. Because I feel that's a 3rd round or 4th round pick, right? I feel like that's a little bit too early.
Yeah, no. I agree. I agree with that as well. And yeah, the practice squad is an option as well. I just think right now they have a guy in Cam Sims who I think they trust and they think is better. I flat out think he's better as well. Yep. A guy like Dax, they obviously drafted, like y'all mentioned. But yeah, I don't know if it's just I'm not trying to sound like I'm biased. I just don't see it. And I think that
I'm right there.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you.
And I think that if they don't see it as well, or rather if I agree with them, I think they're definitely going to cut ties.
Yeah. And we had Doc Walker on Tuesday, Damian. He walked RFK for the last time before demolition starts of the stadium. So let's say, barring, obviously everyone's their first choice is that they would love a new stadium at the RFK site in D.C. But besides that location, is there anywhere in your mind do you think would be a good spot for the stadium?
So obviously y'all know I live in Texas, but I will say this: there's something that I don't like about the franchise is I want it to be in D.C. I literally want it to be the nation's capital. The nation's capital is not in Landover, Maryland. You know what I mean? So I want
it's the exact opposite.
That's where I want it to be. So anywhere in that area is fine for me. I know y'all will know the area and surrounding stuff like that better than I will. But I'm saying this, man. You bring it to DC, I think it'll be a fun time, man. I think having the Caps there, because the Caps play there in actual DC, so do the Wizards as well, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, and even the Nationals play there in the nation's capital. Exactly. Yep. Might as well, unite them, make it the Justice League, and put all of them there.
And Washington, the football team's the biggest franchise in this area. Like, this is a football city. So.
And isn't that crazy? Like the Caps, Ovi's given that area so much great stuff.
I know.
You know what I mean?
The Caps and Nats have both won recently.
And it's just like, man, that stupid football team, can they just be good for 1 year?
That's the crazy part about it is you see people going crazy over the Nats and the Capitals, and people are running the streets. If Washington gets into a Super Bowl, or even makes a Super Bowl or wins one,
man,
I'm talking almost like Philly style, like raging out. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah. We're not gonna eat horse shit or anything.
We're not gonna eat horse shit, obviously, but we're not gonna take it that far. But
yeah. I'm definitely purchasing a flight immediately to DC should they do something like that. Yeah, I'm definitely doing it right then and there.
That's a must. And speaking of the season, now that the draft is over, free agency is not really over yet, but for the most part, it's kind of over with, barring any injuries and late signings. How do you see now the schedule's been released? How do you see this team's record shaking out in the NFC East and the NFC overall at that?
Yeah. So in the NFC East, I think they'll probably split with the Cowboys and the Giants and sweep the Eagles. So that puts them at 4-2. That's how I see their division record going. As far as the rest of the schedule, that's going to be tough. Being safe, conservative, a 9-8, 10-7 kind of year. It's so weird saying the numbers like that because they're so used. But I think a 9-8, 10-7 record is definitely capable. I like Justin Herbert and what the Chargers are doing. That's definitely a winnable game, though. You play a team like the Falcons. We don't know what the Saints are going to be. A team like Carolina's up and down. Sam Darnold, I'm not a really big believer in him. Same thing with the Raiders. So those are some games I'd look at to say favor the Washington football team. But there's some tough games that they're going to have to win. Denver on the road is going to be tough. Green Bay on the road is going to be tough. Buffalo on the road is going to be tough. They're going to have to win a couple of these games that I'm right now I'm kind of like, I don't think they will. But you never know also. I mean, injuries happen. Not only that, we see how, teams can change at the snap of a finger. Last year, the football team was looked at as the 31st best team in football, and they, gave the Super Bowl champions the fight of their life. You know what I mean? So football, anything can happen. But to be conservative, I'd say a 9-8 or 10-7 year.
Yeah, and the silver lining to that schedule release, they got Buffalo early in the season. They don't have to travel to Buffalo in the winter time, which is very big.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Imagine playing in that snow.
Yeah.
I know Fitz was drafted to Buffalo, or was it drafted to St. Louis or Buffalo?
He signed with the Rams. Yeah, he was drafted 7th round to St. Louis. Yeah,
but he was in Buffalo.
But then he went to Buffalo.
Yeah. I mean, I know he's used to it out there or whatever, but no, I don't want that in late or early January, late December. That's not a fun time.
Yeah, in Buffalo, it snows baseballs and dildos.
Yeah, it does. That sounds like my kind of town. So just a generic NFL question here. Which one of these rookie quarterbacks do you think landed in the best situation to succeed for their first contract?
Trey Lance, for sure. Trey Lance in San Francisco is going to be I'm a big Trey Lance guy, just because I bought into the work ethic aspect of it, of his story. I bought into the fact of how much they put on his plate in North Dakota State. I bought into all of that, and I like the talent that he's shown as an athlete, as a thrower. I've said that he needs to learn the passing game, kind of like Josh Allen, rather than learning from short to deep. He needs to learn from deep to short. But man, I think a guy like Trey Lance in that Kyle Shanahan offense, getting him out on the move, moving the pocket around a little bit. Man, he can do some things, man. I'm telling you, I really like Trey Lance, and I like where he landed. And it's kind of doesn't get talked about much. It may get talked about now, more so than in the years past. But a lot of the stuff really does come down to where they land. Zach Wilson landing in New York, it's tough, man. I mean, that organization it's not well run. You know what I mean? And if he busts, they're gonna look at it like it's his fault. But man, that's just another story. I mean, it's another, so that's why, I think it's Trey Lance for sure. And then outside of that, Justin Fields at number 2, man. Justin Fields in Chicago could be something interesting as well, man, for sure.
Yeah. Now, Damian, to wrap this up, my last question for you. The Washington football team was busy with adding a bunch of depth to the offensive line. They swapped 7th-round picks with the Dolphins by bringing Eric Flowers back here. Everyone knows he played left guard for us not too long ago. They drafted your boy Samuel Cosmi in the 2nd. They just signed Charles Leno yesterday. So what would you project that the starting 5 offensive linemen are for week 1?
I think it's Lucas's job to lose at left tackle. But I'm gonna go Leno. I'm gonna go just because he's been so consistent, right? And we've seen this. I think honest. See, this is gonna be another hot take. I think it's gonna be Sadiq at left guard, man. I do.
See, I agree with you.
I do. I think it's gonna be Chase at C. I think at right guard, I don't think Sheriff gets moved, so it's gonna be Sheriff, and then Morgan Moses. Now, I would definitely entertain a Sheriff trade personally. If there's no extension imminent, I would move off.
I think he's gone after this year. So
so that's what I say. I think it'll be Leno, Charles, Chase, and then we got Sheriff and Morgan Moses.
What about, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. I do believe that Sadiq Charles will take that left guard spot. Before we let you go, Damian, though, what about Sadiq makes you think that he will win that left guard spot?
I think they're going to love the athleticism, like I mentioned before, and I think we all know that this regime loves athletes. Charles at LSU was making some fantastic blocks, especially in the run game. He had a solid anchor in the pass game, so I think they're going to like what he can do athletically, especially if they try to go to that zone blocking scheme and like they relied on last year towards the end of the season. I think Sadiq definitely fits well with that, and not only that, like I said, his athletic profile, the fact that he's a very strong kid, strong athlete, fluid athlete. I think that's going to prevail overall, and they just like the upset that he brings. So I think they're going to give him a good chance to play. I mean, he played. They gave him a chance to play in New York, and then he gets hurt on the first play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they definitely believe in him and think that he's going to enter there. And I think, he's just going to win it off his, sheer work ethic, technique, and athleticism.
Yeah, and he tweeted out a video of practice footage of him going against John Allen a couple weeks ago, and he had some power behind him meeting John Allen. I mean, it almost like stifled John Allen. It looked like that was an insane play. To your credit, I think that's what's going to be brought to that left guard spot.
And even more so, that's why I tweeted. I was like, Sadiq at left guard with like the eye emoji, and people were like, "Oh, you forgot he was at left guard." And I was like, "No, I'm just responding to the video." Like, Sadiq at left, like, okay, like we can get busy with that. So yeah, no, I like Sadiq at left guard for sure.
150%, Dame, is because you're smart and you know what you see. Damian, I can't thank you enough for joining us again, brother. You are incredibly busy. You're going to school full time. You're contributing to Riggos Ragg. You're hopping on with us, talking some Washington football. You are a very busy man. I can't thank you enough for joining us, sir.
Hey, anytime y'all want me, y'all let me know. I'll make it happen. I appreciate y'all.
Hey, thank you, Damien. Make sure you guys go and check out his podcast, Dame's Drop Back, as well. It's a very, very well done podcast. One of the first episodes he had Deron Payne on. Just shows what Damien's all about.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all, man. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Damien. I'll catch you again, brother.
All right,
take it easy.
Later.
All right, brother. All right, everybody. We just spoke with Dame. That was awesome, dude. He's so impressive, that kid is.
Hell yeah.
So smart. He just knows everything about everything when it comes to football.
Right. He does get it, 150%. Now, let's go into our fan questions, because the first one I want to go to is Sean. And the one question that he had for you guys, and this is a very pressing question, Reed. I need you to pay attention. Sean asks, why are Hall and Reed scared of Doc Walker?
He's an intense guy.
No, he's a very intimidating guy. No, and I was at court, so like I couldn't miss that, and then it took forever to get home, and that was just miserable. So I made sure I brought my headphones with me this time.
There you go.
Yeah, and I was just for work on Monday, had to get up, drive up to New Hampshire, pick up some material, stay in Massachusetts on Tuesday, and then drive back the following day. And honestly, I was just tired as hell from driving for like 16 hours straight, or not straight, but 16, 17 hours. So I was just like, you know what? I'm taking a night off.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of some,
I apologize, Sean. I don't want to ever happen again.
Sean, you want to see James's new favorite toy? That's the back of the remote. That's what that kid, he just likes playing with it.
That's your kid. It makes so much sense. Now, Sean's next question for us is, which Washington football team offensive player, not a quarterback, has the most touchdowns this season, Hall?
Come on, man. You already know I got the jersey on the way. Got to go with my guy, Gibby. I think Gibson has a bounce, not even a bounce again. I think he builds on his year from last year. Obviously, he got injured towards the end of the year, had to miss a game or two. But I definitely think that they're going to incorporate him more into the passing game this year, which will result in more touchdowns. I think he had 11 rushing touchdowns last year, which led all rookies and was towards the top of the NFL as far as running backs go. So I definitely think that Gibby gets the title again this year.
I'll go with Peyton Barber. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like,
no, but in all seriousness, I will maybe Logan Thomas possibly having that ability, because with Terry McLaurin on the outside, you got Curtis Samuel as well, and then adding Diami Brown. There's nobody really with that height and that length, and obviously Logan Thomas is just he's a huge weapon in the red zone because of that height and that length. So I think that he could be a huge contributor down there, and so I could easily see Logan leading the team in touchdown receptions.
Fitz does love his tight ends.
Yeah.
And you guys took both of mine. I was going to say Gibson because he did have 11 touchdowns last year and only not the entire season. Then I was going to go Logan Thomas because he's a big target, but I'll go Terry McLaurin, obviously getting
what?
With Curtis Samuel, three other wide receivers.
You're breaking up, Reed. Yeah, Reed, you're breaking up.
Bye.
So you sound like a computer.
Yeah. So Sean's next question for us was actually like the same type, but it was defensively. Which player on this team do you think is going to lead in touchdowns defensively, Hall?
Ooh, defensive touchdowns. That's a tough one. Doesn't happen often, so you know what? I'll go with the newest addition, even though I don't think they're going to pick on him a lot because he's a lockdown guy. Can take away a third of the field or half the field if you want him to. He can travel with the number one if you want him to, because he's a excellent man coverage guy. William Jackson III. I think that if anyone's going to lead this team in touchdowns defensively, I think it's him. Just with maybe like a scoop and score, or maybe a couple pick sixes here and there. So I'll go with William Jackson III.
That's a good pick. It's smart, but I'll go with Kendall Fuller. He just seems he's an opportunistic kind of player. He always seems to be around the football in good situations, and if he's getting moved to that slot where he really does excel and be one of the better corners in the league, I think that he will lead the team in touchdowns by far, without a doubt, in my opinion.
I mean, it also makes sense. Like I said, if William Jackson's going to be a shutdown guy like everyone thinks he is, and he can be, it would make sense that Kendall Fuller will get more opportunities thrown his way. So
yeah, absolutely. Now, the next question is from 85 Levo on Twitter. He wants to know, Hall, how many times do you think Justin Herbert gets sacked week 1? And remember, they just drafted Rashawn Slater at their left tackle spot, who gave up 0 pressures when he faced Chase Young in college.
I was just going to say, did a great job at Northwestern against Chase Young when he was at Ohio State. This is a tough one for me. I'm also kind of conflicted because I'm going to have Justin Herbert as my keeper in the 17th round in fantasy this year. So I'm kind of like, I really want him to ball out week 1, but also like take the L as a whole team, Chargers. Like, Justin Herbert would be great. But I don't think it's going to be a repeat of last year when we just massacred Carson Wentz week 1. But I'd just see them getting maybe 2 to 3 sacks on Herbert. So I'll go the lower end too, just because they did kind of fortify the offensive line. And like I said, Herbert's kind of that dude. So we'll see what he does in his second year. But I can see them getting 2 sacks on him. 2.5. I'll go 2.5.
I'll go 3. So I'll go the over on you. I wanted to go with 4. But look, I know that they just drafted Rashawn Slater. That's a great pick for them. He's going to be a great professional, and he'll probably match up really well against Chase Young. But unfortunately for them, Matt Ioannidis is coming back into the lineup. They still have Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, and Tim Settle. So they are going to – the other guys, are they going to be able to block those guys straight up? And I don't believe they will. So I think 3 to 4 sacks is probably a really good prediction for that week 1 matchup. Look, man, this is a good defense, and they deserve that respect. And I know that they are. I'm not downplaying the Chargers at all. They're a very, very good team, but this defense is just that talented. And that's why I wholeheartedly believe it.
It's a high-powered offense as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we need to get to the quarterback and kind of stifle Justin Herbert and kind of throw him off his game to even have a chance in that game because, again, like I said, tough quarterbacks going up against this year, really, really tough offenses. So these defenses are going to have to step it up big this year.
Oh, big time. Now, our question I actually forgot about on Tuesday from our guy, Orange Crush 92. I'm sorry I missed it on Tuesday. It was a kind of crazy episode because of Hall. But it's all right. We're not going to pick on him today. I already gave him shit.
I'm sorry.
Orange Crush wants to know, who's going to score more touchdowns this season, Hall? Terry or Curtis Samuel? Or catch more passes? Let's do both.
All right. I can like that. Passes, I'll go Terry just because I think that Fitzpatrick loves to feed his number 1 guy. If you go back to Fitz's best season with the Jets when they were 10-6, he threw 31 touchdowns. 15 of them were Brandon Marshall. The other 14 or the other 12, the 12 or 14, something like that, were to Eric Decker. So clearly, when he likes a guy, he loves a guy. And I think that they can have similar production, both of them as well. I don't know about 31 touchdowns. That's kind of crazy. But I definitely think that Terry has more catches. I'll go over 100 catches easily for Terry this year. But I think that more touchdowns will be Curtis Samuel just because they're gonna move him around all over the field. They're gonna put him in the running back position. They're gonna line up on the outside. They're gonna line up him in the slot. They're gonna use him in the zone run game, jet sweeps, all that good stuff. Goal line, obviously, the jet sweeps, look out for those. So touchdowns, I'll go over 10 total for Curtis Samuel and catches over 100 for Terry.
Yeah, I won't go too far in depth with it because Hall just hit the nail right on the head. I wholeheartedly agree. Catches is Terry without a doubt. Touchdowns is Curtis Samuel for the reasons that you explained so well. Terry being that middle of the field wide receiver, the one that gets you down to the goal line. Curtis Samuel being the gimmick, the kind of piece that can move around, like you said. Perfect example. I love that selection from you. Now, our next question is from Hogs of Washington. Which divisions do you see us more likely sweeping this year? The NFC South or the AFC West?
Ooh-hoo-hoo.
Which is more likely? So the NFC South, obviously, we got the Saints, we got the Bucks, the Panthers, and the Falcons. Then with the AFC West, we got the Chiefs, we got the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chargers.
Man, that's tough because you got the Buccaneers and the Chiefs in both of those divisions. Uh,
I know it's a really good question.
that is a really good question. I would probably go. I'd probably go the AFC West just because obviously their injuries were due to like the lack of blocking during the Super Bowl, but you saw Tampa Bay kind of get after Pat Mahomes and kind of stifle him, get him outside the pocket. The cornerbacks were really physical with the wide receivers on the outside, kind of jam them at the line, stuff like that. So I definitely think with bringing in William Jackson, they're going to go to a lot more man coverage this year, a lot more jamming them at the line, getting press on them, getting hands on them at the line of scrimmage. So with that being said, if you can knock off the Chiefs in that division, obviously the Chargers is a toss-up game. I wholeheartedly think we can beat the Raiders, and I wholeheartedly, even though it's going to be a tough one, away game in the high altitude in Denver, I definitely think with them not being so sewed up at quarterback right now, Aaron Rodgers pending, I think that Denver is a easily winnable game. So it really just comes down to, can you beat the Chiefs? Can you get after Mahomes? Versus can you get after Brady? And as well, we got the Saints in the NFC South. You don't know what they're going to look like. And the Falcons just added Kyle Pitts. Offense is going to be crazy. So, yeah, I would go AFC West, long story short.
I'll go the opposite. I think the NFC West has the more probability of being swept. They played the Buccaneers very well in the playoffs last year. The Saints are returning without Drew Brees. We're not going to know how that offense and that team is really going to bounce back from losing Drew Brees. They could have a bad year. And then look at the Panthers. Obviously that is a winnable game at this point. They're getting Christian McCaffrey back, but it's not really a barn burner by any stretch. It doesn't really terrify the heck out of you. And then with Atlanta, their defense is atrocious. It's terrible. They've done a great job of rebuilding the offense. They got Kyle Pitts, like you said. Great stuff. But so if I'm going to pick divisions, it's the NFC South, because when you look at the AFC West, I mean, my goodness, Denver's defense, they have so many corners, it's ridiculous. They could literally lose 3 corners and still be okay. It's insane. And then looking at the Chargers and the Raiders, one of the best running teams in the NFL last season. Then having Dwayne Waller, they're trying to rebuild their defense as well. And then the Chargers with Justin Herbert. So I think it's the NFC South that is more likely to be swept by us, to be perfectly honest. It's a hard question because you got either the ex Super Bowl champions or the XX Super Bowl champions you're facing. So which one would you more likely beat?
Possible repeat Super Bowl contenders again, or a Super Bowl game again this coming year. So definitely a tough one. Good question though.
So on Tuesday, the Colonel asked me a couple questions, and it was for all of us, but obviously you weren't there. So I'm going to ask it now. Out of respect for the Colonel. He said, you 3 have had 2 weeks to almost digest the draft. How do you see Washington football team's offense changing in 2021 besides the obvious speed?
I definitely think they're going to be able to open up the offense even more than they did last year, just because the quarterback play, like Ryan Fitzpatrick, can do multiple things. You can get it mobile outside the pocket, so you can move him around on play action fakes, the bootlegs, the naked, stuff like that. He can scramble if need be and get those extra yards in a like I said, the scramble broken play. He can extend the play if need be, which will give more time for the receivers to get downfield more, get open a lot more chunk plays in this offense. We're not going to be just dinking and dunking down the field like we were with Alex Smith all throughout last year. So, those are just similar small things that are going to be huge steps for this offense in 2021.
Yeah, and that's a great job by you. I'm sure that's why he asked. And the next question he asked was, do you see any particular sexy free agent or holes that we need to fill in free agency?
KJ Wright. I think that if this team can sign KJ Wright.
You already know.
Yes, sir. He's still out there. I don't know why Seattle hasn't brought him back yet. This dude still has at least 2 to 3 more years of high-level play at linebacker left in him. This dude is a defensive leader, a defensive captain, a locker room guy, a real just all-around great linebacker. And, I mean, look, this defense is already top 5 in my opinion. You add a guy like KJ Wright to go with Jamin Davis and Cole Holcomb, add more speed to this defense, and a thumper like KJ Wright, a smart defensive linebacker like KJ Wright. Man, this team goes from a top 5 defense to possibly a top 2, even top defense in the league. So if anyone's going to get signed, I know free safety's still out there. A lot of people like Trey Boston. I got to rock my man KJ Wright.
Yeah, I said the same thing. I said Quan Alexander as well on Tuesday, but I'm going to add another name to this list. It's not a free agent yet, But Jordan Hicks, the linebacker from Arizona, they're actively trying to trade him as we speak. Might not happen, so they might end up releasing him. If that happens, bring him in right away. Throw money at him, bring him in. Let's solidify that linebacking core because that will really elevate this defense immensely.
Yeah, that's actually a great one too. I saw the other day that they were talking about trying to trade him, which obviously no team's going to trade for him when they know they don't really want him on the roster.
Right.
Give it a couple days, a couple weeks, he'll be released, and I think you're right. They should definitely pounce on that ASAP.
ASAP. Now our next question is from Rio. He said, if one takes place, which week will result in a QB change? LOL.
Oh man. Is this like injury or just bad play wise?
I'm thinking he's basing it off play.
Play.
Because like let's say Fitzy does what Fitzy does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just up and down roller coaster. Right. So usually he'll start off the first game of the season super hot, throwing 4 touchdowns, super cold. So I'll go the super hot route just because like I'm going to the game week 1. I want to see a great game. So he'll start off hot week 1, kind of cool off by week like maybe 3 to 4. So I will say if he has a stretch of a couple bad games, I'd call it probably week 13. If he plays bad after that leading into that Dallas game in week 14, or do they play in week 13?
Who?
I got to bring the schedule up. But
I'm looking at it right now. What do you need?
They play Dallas in week 14 or week 13?
Week 16 and week 14.
Okay, so leading up to that first Dallas game, when we first started that stretch of 5 division games, I think that if he's having a bad stretch of games up to that point, I think that week 13 could be the plug if he actually gets pulled.
Yeah, and so what's happening right now is we're answering a question from Rio. He said, if one takes place, which week will result in a QB change? Halls thinks it's week 13. For me personally, if it's going to happen, I think it's going to be by week 5, the Saints game. And the reason for that is the Chiefs is week 6. If Fitz comes out, has a bad start, not looking that great, I think based on how Taylor did last year in the playoff game, that they would be able to push him right in and see how well he does against the Saints leading up to the Chiefs. If it's going to happen, in my personal opinion, that's the game I think. What about you, Reed?
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with Hall. I think it would be a little bit later in the season. It really depends on how Fitz plays, and kind of like last year almost, where it's like if we have a chance and if Fitz is just playing poorly. I know Fitz starts out hot all the time. Fitz always starts out very well. So I don't think it'll happen early in the season, but I mean, who knows? Maybe they just want to get Heineke going. I would say sometime around when Hall did, but just to be different, I would say week 11.
Yeah, that's a great one. And our next question is from Tony Shivers. Tony the Tiger, my dude. He said, what are your thoughts on where the bye week falls on the schedule, Reed?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I'll go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
get
not
the goddamn schedule in front of me, Kyle.
It's week 9.
It's week 9, pretty much halfway through the season. I don't have a problem with it really. Obviously with like a little bit later, maybe like a week 11, week 12-ish bye week, just to get your guys kind of like ramped up, fully healthy again not fully, but healthy enough again for the upcoming playoff stretch. But I don't have a problem with it being week 9. That's halfway through the season. Give the guys a break midway through. I'm just glad it's not like week 4 like it used to be. So,
yeah, I don't mind it, Tony. To be perfectly honest, I like where it's at right now. Like Hall said, I would have been blown if it was early in the season. But looking at that stretch of games from the 3rd week with the Bills to the 10th week in the Buccaneers, that is a hard stretch. And facing the Super Bowl champions, we're going to be having a bye week before we play them. That's why I really like it, because it's giving us that extra edge, that extra week of rest before we go and face Tom Brady and that the defending Super Bowl champions. I don't mind it at all. I don't really have a choice, really, because of that stretch of schedule. I would have been, I guess I would have been a little bit more blown if it was later, because we need that relaxed week after that huge stretch of games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. I think the mid-season is perfect. Like you said, week 4, week 5, I think that's just way too early. I don't even think that they should have bye weeks week 4, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no.
But it allows you to break the season into 2 halves as the players, and it really lets you rest up after a nice slate of games, good 8 games, and then all of a sudden you got to go right back out there and play 9 more. So it's kind of like 2 halves of the season. So I think it really will help the players out and get healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Scott Hartley says, with the O-line looking deep, is there anywhere else you feel we must strengthen before training camp? He thinks safety, and he wanted to put in a point to say him and Hall are seat neighbors for week 1.
I was gonna say my seat neighbor.
Coming from the UK, dude, we got the invasion part 2 is going to be strong for week 1, dude.
Yeah. Look, screw Beatles mania. This is going to be Washington football mania.
You know what's crazy? Speaking of Washington football mania in week 1, I haven't seen this much hype and this many people like size to go to week 1 like a home opener.
Yeah, dude.
Very long time.
I never go to Washington games. I hate FedEx. Like I never go. But even I'm like, I'm going. That's a going.
What was the question again? I don't even remember.
So basically, what other positions do you think we need to add in free agency?
Yeah, we touched on it with the Colonel's question. If they can somehow bring in KJ Wright or I already forgot his name from Arizona.
Jordan Hicks.
Jordan Hicks from Arizona. If they can snag him off the waivers once he gets cut, that would be great. Obviously, I know the people want free safety and the safety be brought in, but with his draft in Morgan, we got Jeremy Reeves coming back off a strong year last year, and obviously Landon Collins coming back off the injury. So, yeah, if I had to pick anything, it would probably be linebacker.
Yeah, that's a great one. It really is. I don't have a place right now. I answered on Tuesday. They've done a good job of building the roster. Yeah. To be perfectly honest, we've said it many times in this pod. They looked at their roster and the weaknesses. They really turned it into strengths. They invested a lot of money and people into those spots, and it's great because they really did build a sustainable product here. I'm happy with it, to be perfectly honest. Maybe safety, but I would say linebacker. I still feel that way. One of these guys, Quan Alexander, KJ Wright, or if Jordan Hicks becomes available, I would like to see a veteran added to the linebacker room. I have all the confidence in the world in Khaleke Hudson, and Josh Harvey Clemens coming back and John Bostic, but maybe just one more vet.
Right. Yeah. Signing a linebacker like that, a starting linebacker, this defense would just be so ridiculous. So yeah, obviously linebacker, safety is another popular one, but I'll switch it up a little bit. I'll go with a backup or a veteran edge defender, a veteran defensive end, somebody who can kind of fill in there.
Kerrigan?
He's still out there. Yeah. Somebody who can fill in for Chase Young and Montez Sweat, just because, I know obviously they don't need anybody to fill in for them, but they also didn't play near as many snaps as they're going through this year last season. They had such a solid rotation that you want to be able to give those guys a breather. But we also just drafted 2 guys in the 7th round that are both athletic freaks as well, that I think that this coaching staff is high on, depending on if they play Tony at defensive end. Apparently word is they might be playing him at strong side linebacker. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting, but this team really doesn't have that many holes.
No, they do not. Now, his next question for us is, I know that this is stupid, it's trivial, doesn't make any sense to do it now, but he wants to know our early prediction for the record. So real quick, I'll just say the schedule for this season.
Okay.
Week 1 against Chargers, Giants at home week 2, at the Bills week 3, Falcons at the Falcons week 4, home to the Saints, home against the Chiefs, at Green Bay, at Denver, home to the Bucks, at Carolina, home to Seahawks, at Las Vegas for the Raiders, at home against Cowboys, away at Eagles, away at Cowboys, home to Eagles, and then away at the Giants. This is a tough schedule, dude. So, Reed, what is your prediction for the record?
It's a tough schedule, but of course, as soon as the schedule comes out, everybody likes to go through all of the games. Will this happen? I don't know, but I do. I mean, just looking at it going through, at least a lot of things are going to change. There's going to be a lot of injuries. There's still going to be some player movement. So it really depends. And also every year there's bad teams that end up being good teams. But when you look at it, I mean, yes, we do have a tough schedule, but there's also some very winnable games in there. I mean, against some teams that made a lot of noise last year, but maybe aren't going to be as good this year. I think at first glance, when you really look at it, I would say 10-7, but I think that there's a chance that we could be better than that, honestly. But I'm going to go with 10-7, and I do think that that'll be enough to win the NFC East.
10-7. I think I'm going to have to agree with you there. I think that is the smart assessment. I kind of went through the checklist. But there's a couple of games there that really could throw things to the wayside.
Yeah.
I think 10-7 is the correct choice right now. Last year, I thought that they were a playoff team, that they would be hovering around 500. Definitely was off by a couple games. Obviously, only won 7.
But they could have won a couple more games at least last year.
Yeah. So. I cannot stand everyone continue to talk about the Giants swept us. I get it. But it's
Yeah,
not
that's
like
fine.
they whooped our ass, like they dragged
Yeah,
us up
right.
across the field. Those were
Right.
2 good games.
If those
3
games
points
were had 5 quarters, I know that doesn't make sense because they're quarters. But if they had 5 of them, we would have won those games because we caught fire towards the end of each one.
I mean, to be honest, one of them should have went to 5 quarters. 'cause
It
they
should have, yeah.
Went to
Yeah, that's
overtime.
called
But,
overtime. That's
you
what it's
know,
called.
hindsight 2020.
Right.
But I'm gonna go with 20-0.
20, my
Nah.
man, taking 32nd in 2022. I love it.
But honestly, I do like 10-7. I know, like I said, at minimum they got to win 9 games. That's like at minimum you got to grow. You got to win 9 games next year. Looking at the schedule, how it plays out, how everything goes, I definitely think that this first place schedule, which I don't even want to go on a rant about that. Those 3 games against Buffalo, Seattle, and Green Bay. If we can steal one of those, maybe possibly 2. Obviously, I'm looking at
Right. Seattle's
Seattle.
beatable for sure.
Seattle and Green Bay. Definitely are the 2 that I think we could steal.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we can get to 11 wins, but I'll probably I'll go safe and be 10-7. But I definitely see 11-6 on the horizon.
Yeah. And another thing is if you look at it, like we face like the Raiders, say towards the end of this, before we go on that ignorant NFC East month-long schedule, and that's right around the time the Raiders collapse every year anyway. So like that's a perfect time to catch them. You know, you can win 6 in a row going in there. All right.
Yeah, that we would absolutely love that. Now moving on to a fellow UK fan, our boy Andy of the
Oi.
DC Tweet Team podcast. Oi, he said, "How hyped are you all to have the English arriving for games 1 and 2 to start the season?"
Let me put it this way to you, Andy. How excited were you when you find out that America was going to be a free country? You know, I'm sure you guys were pretty excited to learn that you didn't.
That's so bad of a joke.
It wasn't even a joke. It was
I
just
know.
I was just going, and I was like, "What can I say? Nothing. I don't know what English people like. I don't fucking know." So, how excited were you to get rid of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry? Was that when?
Right.
I think that's better. Dude, I'm so excited. You know, like I said, I don't go to Washington games. I just don't like going to the stadium, but I'm going. I'm going to one of the 2. You know, so just because of you guys, strictly because of you guys.
I cannot wait to meet everyone. Very, very hyped to be able to finally meet you guys after a year of being able to.
Kyle's a lot shorter than you think. Kyle's only like 5'2", so
Yeah, I'm very short, very short.
And I'm actually taller than you think. I'm like 6'5".
yeah, Hall's close to 7 feet.
I'm actually like sitting on my floor, just like no chair, nothing right now.
Right. Yeah. He's very tall.
His torso is just very short.
Now, super size. I'm excited. Hope you guys got your bringing your beer chugging shoes.
Yes, and I know, and they're gonna drink us under the table. Now, Andy's next question was: do you see us getting some respect from TV networks and the NFL with 3 primetime games this season? Reed.
Yeah, I think obviously that's a lot better than last year. And yeah, I really do. I think that there's been a lot of. I know everybody always likes to ride the Cowboys. That's how it always is. But there's been actually a good amount of like analysts and stuff on NFL Network and ESPN that have picked Washington to win the division. They just say that they see what we're doing and they love it. So I think last year us going Ron deciding to bench Dwayne, going all out, going for the division, I think was the best thing that could have happened to this team. I know that it took us out of position to draft one of these quarterbacks, but look at us. We're in a better position now. We're a very good team, and I think that it kind of shows with the schedule. We have 3 primetime games, and I think that that's huge for us.
Yeah, Andy, I will say respect is earned. There is a reason why we haven't gotten many primetime games over the years because we never show up in them. Except for last year, the outlier going into Pittsburgh on Monday night. That was phenomenal. From mark of that season for me personally, but I don't, not until they start consistently winning and they prove that they deserve that respect will they get it, to be perfectly honest.
I mean, we're definitely getting respect because, like Reed said, if you watch like ESPN or FS1, whatever NFL Network, whatever sports show you like tune into, Washington's kind of been that kind of sleeper, kind of dark horse team out the NFC that like everyone pretty much says is based on Ryan Fitzpatrick. If Fitzpatrick is Fitzpatrick, like he's been in the last 16 games, which is pretty efficient, we're going to be contenders in NFC, not just the East, but the NFC as a whole. So with that being said, I definitely did think we're getting a little bit of respect. It started with the hire of Ron Rivera, and it's just been growing from there. And at the end of the day, with a guy like Chase Young, you got a guy like Terry McLaurin, it's all about respect as well. But when you got talent on your team, they're going to put you on primetime games no matter what. I mean, so at the end of the day, it's about talent and respect, and I think we have both of those.
Right, yeah. And tinfoil hat, how much of it do you think is because that this is the first full offseason that we haven't had the name Redskins? You know what I'm saying? I mean, they didn't want to pick them
Also,
to win.
I think we're going to have 4 primetime games. I do think that one of those last
NFC East ones
NFC East
definitely
games
get
flexed
right.
to like a Sunday night or afternoon game. So
Good call.
looking at four big ones this year, fellas.
Yeah. And like, yeah. And I know everyone's kind of flipping out about, because it's like the first time since like, I think, what was it, like the 70s or something?
Yeah, 1970. Or since they turned to 1970, that it's like 5 games in a row
Of divisional opponents to close out a season. And I get it. Everyone's looking like, whoa. But like once we get there, it actually might be a gift when it happens. Just like the Eagles were in week 17 last year. I don't mean to be actually, screw it. Be disrespectful. That was a gift in week 17, you know, obviously Jalen Hurts and everything with Nate Sudfeld. But that kind of thing can happen. I know that everyone's looking like, oh, that's crazy. But honestly, you never know what's going to happen, dude. So much can happen, especially in a couple months of off season. How much can really happen in a couple months of the NFL season? A lot of guys are going to be revolving door, baby. The turnover rate is crazy in the NFL.
Not even just that. I mean, if you think about it, if we're in the mix coming down to that last 5 weeks of the season, you can honestly look at it as like a game-to-game, like week-to-week basis, as we can focus on this game and only this game, because it's almost like a playoff like scenario from that stretch on to.
Yeah, if you lose them, you could lose the control, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So if you can just focus on, all right, we got this team this week, this team this week, this team this week. We're not looking ahead to next week. I think that's actually good for this team. So, I mean, look, it's kind of a gauntlet, but at the end of the day, iron sharpens iron.
And and that, like you said, that it's almost kind of a good thing, like you just said, Hall, because like those games, they're all going to be, every one of those games is going to be very important. Like you couldn't ask for anything better. Like if you have confidence in your team, like the coaching staff, they couldn't ask for anything better. You get to literally control your destiny against your division rivals at that point. Like,
right. You have to love it, absolutely, and I have full confidence in the team. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Thank you so much to Damien, and if you guys haven't already, go subscribe to his podcast, Dames Drop Back. He does a great job with that. He's a very, very intelligent kid. He knows what he's talking about. And thank you to everyone for your fan questions. You know, Andy, Scott Hartley, Tony, Rio, Brian, Orange Crush. Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate your constant support. You guys are the best. Tony Shivers, you guys are awesome. We love you guys. All right, guys. We'll see you guys again on Tuesday. All right. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
And I'm going to be here full time next week because no court for Dad, nothing else going on. So we're good.
Yeah, just don't go to Ocean City over the weekend. All right, everybody. We will see you guys on Tuesday. Washington football. Whee! What's up, everybody? It's your man Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. I hope you enjoyed the last video as much as we did. If you like what you saw, please like the video by clicking the thumbs up symbol and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us continuing to do what we do and making great content for y'all. If you want to stay up to date on new episodes, make sure you click on the notification bell, and I'll see you guys next time.